quickly introduce myself, I'm Shakari. I'm Product Enablement Manager at ConsenSys. And today I am the Customer Enablement Manager, so I'm part of the Customer Enablement team. Mario, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mario Christopher, and I'm a solutions architect at ConsenSys. I work with the builders engagement team to engage builders, get them to know what snaps are, help them out in their development process, direct them to technical resources, conduct trainings, and just make sure that you all end up building the best snap possible out there. In that way, helping make you as well as ConsenSys a success on the snaps journey.
Excellent. Perfect. Great. So today what we're going to do is actually welcome you to the Metamask Snap Builder Enablement session. Our objective is to work you through the onboarding for Snap development as mentioned by Mario. So I want to share with you first a glimpse of what you will get from today's session, and also talk about the opportunity to explore the ConsenSys product suite, and then deep dive into the Snap ecosystem. We also target to let you go once you acquire what we call a deep and brilliant Snap knowledge. So we will cover gradually questions such as what is a Snap, what you can do with it, and how you should proceed with the Snap. So if we move to the next slide. So the main goal is to hand over the ability to build the best snaps in the world, let's say, as mentioned by Mario. To do so, we will present in detail topics such as the go-to-market best practices, the audit processes, review the tools, discuss on how to make your snap discoverable, and gain the maximum of end users. So this sharing session will not be the only one, as we plan to organize as well training sessions that will be specifically addressing the good practices that we consider valuable to be shared with you and to be applied to your road to success. Then, yes, as a quick intro, here I'm happy to remind what our mission as ConsenSys is. So as a just overall reminder, we want to enable everyone in the world to leverage the promises of the Web3, and we are building a product suite to move forward on topics such as decentralization, privacy, self-sovereignty, and so on and so forth. I jumped to this slide, so how to reach the biggest blockchain ecosystem. I want to explore with you how these products will serve reaching the biggest blockchain ecosystem. So everyone is already familiar with the famous Metamask, we call it our key to blockchain application. I need to remind that we are talking actually about 1 million annual active users, that we have more than 70K connected dApps as of today, and that we count with Metamask 244K daily transactions. I also need to mention Infura, Diligence, and Linea, dedicated to the developer community. This is our product for developers, sorry. And as of today, we count more than 400K builders and the capability to publish on, I think last numbers were 12 networks. So this is a general overview on our product suite. Today we are here to talk about Metamask Snaps. So I hand it over to Mario to deep dive into that topic.
Thank you, Shaima. So today's discussion is going to be surrounding snaps. We will get to understand what snaps are basically, how do you go about creating a snap, how does snap fit into the rest of the picture when it comes to the ecosystem. And if time permits, we would have a small demo, which will also show us how to create a snap from scratch and then publish it and work with it in our DApp. So with that foundation set, let's talk about what is a snap. So a snap is a new development platform that's going to be available, that is available within MetaMask. So think about it like this. When ConsenSys came up with MetaMask as a wallet, they wanted to put all the goodness of the world into it, right? But there is a limit into how much we can add to the snap without having like thousands of employees on our side. So the idea was to open up MetaMask as a platform to all the developers out there. So every developer out there could come up with a great idea, and that idea could be added into MetaMask as a feature. So here is a similar example where you have your mobile device, your phone, and in the phone, you don't really have every feature that's possible out there. And therefore, you look at something called an app store where you look at all the different apps. The apps are developed by people outside there. And then you pick one of those apps and you add it to your phone. And thus you expand the capabilities of your phone. So that's exactly the same concept here, where we have these apps and developers build an app using a platform and then add it, and then an end user gets to add it into their wallet. Now, a snap by default has no permissions, meaning it cannot do anything by itself. So in order for it to achieve what it wants to do, it works with a system called permissions. So as a developer, I would say my snap needs access to the internet. My snap needs to talk to the blockchain. My snap needs to show messages. My snap needs to show dialogues. So all these are things that you want your snap to do, and therefore you express that wish in the form of a list of permissions. So the permissions are put into your code. And then finally, when the end user is going to be installing your app, during the installation steps, they would see all these permissions that are requested for. And if an end user is happy with those permissions and has no issues with it, they go ahead and approve those permissions. And then the installation continues. So in that way, we ensure that a snap has access to features which an user has no problems in giving to. And in that way, a snap increases its features, increases its functionality. So a snap can also have its own API. Today, as DApp developers, we know that when we want to talk to the wallet, we look at the wallet and there are all these APIs exposed from the wallet interface, and we talk to those APIs to achieve something in the wallet. Similarly, the Snap APIs also would be available, and a DApp builder will look at these APIs and say, okay, show me a dialogue. Okay, talk to the internet. Okay, talk to the blockchain. So these APIs will be exposed from the Snap, and any DApp developer can talk to these APIs and execute those features that the Snap provides. So that's in a nutshell of what the Snap is and how the Snap gains its features. So with the Snap, what can you actually do? Already with the example I gave earlier about a mobile device and having all these apps added, you kind of got an idea as to what a snap can do. A snap can add all these mini features and thus make your wallet and a Swiss Army knife with everything possible. But just for clarity's sake, we kind of divided these features into some major groups. For example, interoperability. Today, we all know that MetaMask is an EVM-based wallet, but there are so many chains coming out there, and we don't want to add all that functionality ourselves into MetaMask, and therefore we opened up this interoperability category for snaps. So a snap can be developed which talks to blockchains such as Bitcoin or Solana or Cosmos or any other blockchain. And today we already have a number of snaps out there which have this interoperability feature. Then we have the category called transaction insights. So when somebody wants to submit a transaction in MetaMask, they would like to know a little more information about that transaction as to who are we interacting with? What is the problems, if any, faced by anybody else? Is this smart contract really a malicious one or a real one? So all this information about a transaction is provided using transaction insight snaps, and it helps the end user make a more informed decision before they click on that approve button. We also have decentralized identity as one more, where the Web3 world has all these ways to maintain and manage your online identity. So it interacts with this, it integrates with this, and allows MetaMask wallet to be a single point where you can have your presence known online with your decentralized ID. An excellent example would be using Gitcoin Passport. So the Gitcoin Passport is an online identity service provider where it looks at all your online activities in Twitter or in GitHub or GitLab and adds all these as stamps and thus creates your identity. So you can write a snap which integrates this online identity with MetaMask and allow MetaMask to be your online identity provider with the help of all these background services. So the list can go on and on because features that developers can think of are so limitless and so endless. And so you can have all these features embedded within a snap and provide a snap to the MetaMask wallet. We are working on expanding the number of APIs that can be done in terms of permissions available. You can now store data within MetaMask such that it's accessible only by your snap. So many other APIs are on the roadmap, which is going to be expanding the developers' capabilities of adding features. So it's an exciting road ahead for snap development. So what does constitute a snap? How does it actually work? So if you've written an Node project before, an NPM package, right? Then you're already 90% on your way into knowing what a snap is. So the snap is nothing but an NPM package. It's got its own source code. You can write it in TypeScript or JavaScript. And there's a main file that's added to your project called the snap.manifest.json. So this is a very important file for the snap because it describes what your snap does. It gives a description. It tells where the snap repository is. It's got a SHA-SUM calculated and set inside. And most importantly, it's got all the permissions that I spoke about earlier. So this JSON file has a list of permissions that the snap would require during installation process. And this is where, as a developer of a snap, you would go in and list all the permissions that you would need for your snap. And finally, of course, we have the package.json, and this file is required for publishing it on NPM. Along with this, we also provide a set of CLI tools. And today, these tools would be used in your package.json scripts. These tools would essentially build your snap. It would take all your project code and bundle them into a single file. And then this single file is published to NPM as a package. So once your code is done, once your code is developed, you would publish your snap to NPM. And then you would have an accompanying DApp. So why do you need an accompanying DApp? So today, MetaMask Wallet does not allow us to change the UI much as a snap. So you can only have some limited UI available via a snap into MetaMask. There's also a need for you as a developer to explain to the world what your snap does. You would have a nice landing page. An end user would go to that landing page and they would see all the features that your snap provides. And it also tells maybe what permissions are required. So you definitely need to have a DApp, which is a landing page for your snap. So you develop a DApp, and then you invite the user to use your snap. You can use this as a way from your regular website. You have a button there saying install a snap, which then takes the user to your DApp, or you can jump to your DApp from the snaps directory, which we'll talk about later. But basically, the idea is your snap will always accompany with a DApp, which gives more information about your snap. When the end user looks at your DApp and they see the button, big blue button or whatever button you have to connect, then you initiate the process of installing the snap within MetaMask Wallet. When the installation starts, this would be the first dialog that you would see in MetaMask. So this is a dialog that is created inside the snap and is then made visible within MetaMask Wallet. And as I was talking about the permissions, this dialog shows a lot of information about the snap in a snapshot. It shows who has developed the snap. It tells us what is the current version of the snap available out there. You can click on that link and it goes more into what the snap is all about. It takes you to the source code in GitHub and so on. And then it also says, gives us a message saying that you are trying to install the snap from Metamask Snap people, and these are the permissions that are required. So you would see a list of permissions there, and then once you're happy with all the information that's displayed, you would then click move forward, accept and move forward, and thus the Snap installation continues until it's completed. Once a snap is installed, you can see the snap that you have and maybe other snaps by going into MetaMask settings, and then there's a snap option there. You click into the snaps option and it shows you a list of the snaps that you currently have. So in our example on the screen here, you see two snaps installed, Metamask and PetFox. You can click on them and it goes further to show more details about the snap that you have installed. Now, the good thing about a Snap, or the best feature about this Snaps platform is it allows composability, extensibility. So you as a developer might think, I have this wonderful idea of a Snap and I want to use it for my business. But then when you think a little bit out of the box, you can start imagining what other Snap developers or DApp developers could also use your Snap for. So let's say, for example, you're thinking of a Snap which shows a notification in MetaMask, and you are just limiting your feature set to a notification. But then you understand that there are other snaps out there which might also want a notification feature. They could go ahead building their own notification feature in their Snap, or they could rely on your Snap to show notifications. Thus, we see a kind of an ecosystem building up here where one Snap would like to use the features of another Snap and thus interact. And it's not just Snap to Snap, it's also a DApp to Snap. So other DApp builders also, instead of developing their own notification Snap, they'll say that, hey, I like this notification Snap and I would like to implement this. And so they can also use your Snap. So this whole ecosystem starts building up where a Snap talks to another Snap, a DApp talks to another DApp, multiple Snaps can talk to each other, and so on. And thus, this ecosystem builds up the features in your wallet, and therefore your wallet becomes a Swiss Army knife. So it's great that this platform is extensible and composable, in which way you have all the features necessary without bloating your wallet with too many snaps out there. So let's put all this into perspective and see how the whole 10,000 feet picture looks like. So in the center, you see the orange box, which is the MetaMask wallet. So a builder starts off by coming up with an idea and saying, I have this wonderful idea. And the builder is going to develop something. And like we spoke, a snap is always accompanied with a DApp. So the builder develops whatever is in this dotted rectangle. So the builder has a DApp and the builder has the snap installed. So these are the two deliverables that the builder provides. And this snap lives in the cloud, which in this case is called NPM. We are working on having many more registries out there, but for now we are starting with NPM. So this is the first stage. Then a user comes into the picture and the user goes to your DApp. And the user says, I like this DApp, I like the features that this DApp provides. And therefore the user interacts with the DApp and installs the snap within their MetaMask wallet. So that is stage 2. And now it's the stage is set for the developer having a snap and the user using it. And then stage 4 comes into play where other dApps and other snaps look at your snap and say, I want to make use of that. And therefore, they also get involved in the picture. So this whole slide shows the entire ecosystem surrounded by one particular snap and gives you an idea as to where different pieces fit into this snap puzzle that we are working with. So yes, you have developed your snap and it's out there, but how does this whole process start off with, right? So we are going to be talking about developer resources as of now. So as a developer or as a person who's interested in snaps, you might be going through different phases of your development process. And we want to provide resources on each of these phases of yours, such that your journey through these phases are seamless, smooth, and effortless, thus allowing you to develop that final snap, which is the best snap in the world out there. So let's look at the first phase that you might probably go through. So we're talking about the learning phase. So when you're trying to learn, you need some resources to understand what these snaps are. So this first link gives you a snaps overview. So when you go there, it's actually the landing page for our Snaps project. So you come in here and you understand what the snaps are. You look at this little video here. It gives you a quick, in a nutshell, what snaps is. You can understand the types of snaps in terms of interoperability, notification, transaction insights. You can look at some more information in here just by branching off on the links. So this gives you an initial idea. Okay, this is a snap. Now let's move forward to see what I can do further. When you're done with understanding what a snap is, you might be interested more in terms of the business aspect. So how do I go to market with this? What are the best practices, design features, anything else that on the roadmap? So you go to the second link, which is a series of builder education videos or calls that we have recorded. As of now, we have a limited set. We have about 4 sessions in here, and we are adding continuously in here. So it's just basically a set of recordings which talks about best practices in security or best practices to go to market, and talking about the Snaps directory and how we onboard people. So a good set of resources here for you to get familiar with what should be done before you start moving to the next phase of your Snap development cycle. So next phase is building. So now you're putting on your builder's hat, and then you not need to start looking at where do we go from here. So let's look at the Snaps documentation. This is a great resource for developers to get familiar with how to go about working with Snaps. So it gives you a lot in terms of how to get started, what are concepts, what are the APIs available. So I would recommend definitely that you spend some time on this particular website here, familiarizing with yourselves with how the Snap works, how dialogues work, how notifications work, the different APIs that are available. Moving on, even if you know everything in the Snap world, your Snap would fall flat if it doesn't follow some design guidelines. So this link takes you to design guidelines. In essence, it tells you how you should let your Snap work or how you should present it to the user. Keep in mind that a user out there would be presented with hundreds or thousands of snaps. And there is that first few seconds that the user looks at what your Snap is about, and that's the few seconds that you have to capture their imagination and make them install your Snap. So it's very important that the way you present your Snap, the text you show, the user experience that you have are all so important because that attention span is so short for the user. So this design guideline helps you understand what is the best way, how to put your best foot forward such that your Snap is accepted by the user in those first few seconds. So for example, you could have your description, which is as long as this, or you could make it very simple and make it this way so that the user quickly reads your description and understands what your Snap is all about. So go through this because this is important in understanding the how your Snap is presented to the user in order to capture their attention. We also have a tool called a Snaps simulator. So once your Snap is completed, you don't have to go into the process of developing a highly complex DApp for you to use your Snap. You can go to this tool, which is a Snap Simulator. We'll look a little more about this later on, but this basically allows you to pull in your Snap into this tool and then interact with your Snap. So if you have like 10 or 15 APIs that you're writing in your Snap, you can come to this JSON RPC section and you can create a request for your JSON RPC and execute it against your Snap, and then you can see the results of your Snap. So without having a DApp to start off with, you can complete your Snap, pull it inside this tool, and start interacting with it by calling all the API methods available on your Snap. Moving on to the next phase of your development cycle, you would come into the launch. So yes, you have your Snap, it's working great. How do I go about making it available to people out there? So before you start thinking about pushing it out there, you need to check the readiness guide. So in the readiness guide, you can come in here and check this document where these are the common questions are asked by Snap developers as to, hey, I know something about Flask. What is the difference between Flask and Stable? Or are there any grants available for Snap development? So this document it's still a work in progress document, but it gives an idea of all the questions that other developers have had already. And so you read this and enrich your knowledge and somehow gain knowledge to answers and questions which other developers had so far. So it's just an accumulation of people's questions who are now in your shoes. Then we have a list of auditors. So why are we having auditors here? So let's look at this process. We have something called an allow listing process. So in this initial stage of our Snap projects, we want to make sure that the end users are not flooded with thousands of snaps without even knowing the quality of those snaps. So for this initial phase of our Snap project, we are kind of acting like a gatekeeper and making sure that only valid snaps, which are non-malicious, which are helpful for the ecosystem to help bootstrap this whole process, only these snaps finally make its way to an end user's wallet. And we call this whole process as allow listing. So there are a number of steps in this allow listing process. First, you as a developer write your snap. Of course, you write your snap, you complete it. Second, you make your snap repository public. We want to make sure that every person out there has a chance to read the code in your snap to understand what it does. This kind of builds confidence in your snap. So your repository should be public. 3, you should be auditing your snap code. So for this, we have a list of auditors. We have worked with these auditors and we know the quality of their work. And these auditors are also very familiar with snaps and snap building processes. So they know what to look for and what to flag. So you submit your code to one of these auditors. And of course, getting in touch with these auditors, figuring out their timelines, the cost involved. These are decisions that you will have to make on your own. But once you have narrowed down a particular auditor, yeah, you go ahead and submit your code to them. These auditors would review your code, provide you with feedback. There would be a small back and forth process where they give you feedback, you fix those feedback issues back and forth until finally a report is provided by these auditors. So this report is then needed to be submitted to ConsenSys Snaps team. So the Snaps team now looks at this report, understands the processes that were involved, understands that all the issues raised by the auditors were fixed. The Snaps team also looks at the public repository. And with all of this happening, they then make a decision that, yes, this snap is good for the ecosystem and it's safe for the end user's wallet. And then this snap gets the green check mark and says, yes, the snap can be allowed listed. So once the snap is allowed listed, it then shows up into the snaps directory. So the snaps directory is a place which you can think of like an app store where all the allow listed snaps live. When we went live in Austin, a couple of months ago for permissionless Austin, we worked with a number of partners and they also went live with their snaps. So they completed all the processes which I listed earlier and their snaps was allowed listed. So we went live with a number of snaps and as of today, the snaps count has grown and we have few more in the pipeline who are yet to be allowed listed. So this is the final place where your snaps will reside after allowed listing. And from here, a user can go and discover your snaps, figure out what your snap is by clicking on this information. It gives a lot more details here. And then from here, it goes to the DApp, which I was talking about. So you can then go to the website for a particular snap. And that DApp could already say, okay, you are trying to install a snap, so it prompts you to install the snap and so on. So getting to the directory is one of the first steps that an end user would undertake in order to understand your snap and install your Snap into MetaMask wallet. Now, as an alternative, you can also have your own web page, which is your current website. Say, for example, yeah, so I'm not able to get the right Snap as an example, but let's say you do have your own website, and on your website, you can have, check out the Snap that we have, a link, and from there, the user would go to the DApp that you have, which talks a little more about your Snap. So there's a point here called MetaMask grants, which I'll now talk about. We did talk about this whole allow listing process, right? And there is one step in there, which is the auditing process. And that is one step where many developers come to a standstill and wonder what to be done next, because auditing code is not cheap. And auditors do charge a hefty sum depending on the size of your code base. So we have something called a MetaMask grants program. So the MetaMask Grants has been a program that has started much before Snaps came into picture. And basically, it's a program where we try to help developers out there such that the ecosystem grows. We try to provide them assistance financially, as well as any other kind of assistance in terms of ideas, in terms of go-to-market strategies, and so on. But it's mainly used for financial assistance for project development costs. So you as a developer can approach MetaMask grants and put in a request asking for financial support. And depending upon the project, depending upon the level of interest, the grants team would then go ahead and allocate a grant for you. This is a DAO, and therefore there are a number of members internally who make this decision and finally assign you a grant for your development process. Now, you could do this pro or prior to your development process, or even retro after your development process, where you try to recoup the costs that you have incurred in your Snap development. So this is an important tool where many developers have taken advantage of and have got a grant and paid for their auditing processes, and thus gotten over that milestone which is required for allow listing. So with this, we complete this launch cycle. So we have launched our Snap successfully. It is now on the directory, and the end users are going ahead and working with it. So as your last step in your cycle, you have now a chance to look back on your journey and see how you as a contributor could make this whole journey better, not only for the ecosystem, but for all your builder friends out there, and even for MetaMask and ConsenSys. So there's something called Metamask Snaps Improvement Proposal, or in short, SIP. Like EIPs, SIPs are something where you can come in to the repository and you can make suggestions on how you want to improve the Snaps platform. You can have great ideas which can be added to the platform, and all the team members here are eager to read these contributions of yours and enhance the Snaps ecosystem. You also have a discussion board. So you can come in here and look at what are all these Snap builders talking about. So there are a number of topics in here. You can get interested in one of these topics by becoming a contributor, or you can add your own topic here. The Snaps team is very responsive to these topics, and they enhance these platform by understanding what the discussion is about and adding features that are requested in here. So this is a great place for you to be and figure out what can be done to enhance the components. For example, here there is a discussion, which UI components would you like to see in transaction insights? So as I was talking about earlier, the amount of UI changes that you as a developer can inflict inside MetaMask is very limited. You just have pop-ups that you can show up. But inside those pop-ups, would you like text boxes? Would you like links? Would you like images? So these are things which are discussed in this particular one. And if you have an interesting idea and you see that it definitely would help the ecosystem, join this discussion and provide your idea. And in that way, we can figure out how to enhance these systems. We have the Snaps Discord, so go there and again, communicate with the team, communicate with builders out there, talk about your issues. And then we also have direct communication with the Snaps team. It's basically a Google form, so you go there and put in your request or your questions, and the Snaps team will get back to you directly. Now, once all this is completed, it's not that we are letting go of you or we don't want to have any more relationship with you. So what happens after this is for allow listed snaps, we have a process continuing called ecosystem management. So what happens in that is we assign an ecosystem manager. So there is a particular person who sets up calls with you to figure out, okay, now your Snap is out there. What are your next ideas? How do you plan to make your Snap more visible to people out there? These are the new things coming up in the Snap. Would you like to make use of it and improve your Snap? So there's a series of calls that can be set up with the ecosystem team to make sure that your Snap is having the most outreach out there, to make sure that you can create another Snap, possibly with another great idea, and so on. So once your Snap is allowed listed, you get engaged with the ecosystem engagement team, and from there on, your Snap journey just keeps increasing multifold. So we do have some reference links here. There are some example snaps. Go ahead and check these links out. Once this call is done, Shaima is going to share this deck with you so you have access to these links. Click on them and enjoy the demos, read through the repos, and get some more insight on what snaps are. I'll pause now for questions if we have any Q&A, and then depending on the time we have left, we'll go into a demo to create a snap. And once that demo is done, Sharma comes back into the picture and then gives you a series of what's next. So with that said, I'll just pause now for any Q&A before we get into a demo.
Hello, sorry, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, why specifically as an audit required? I mean, we're not talking about some code that's immutable, committed, and deployed on a blockchain. I mean, it's just a simple React app, as far as I'm concerned, with access to API, and you've provided restrictions. So why the audit?
Yes, so the Snap is not actually a simple React application with API, right? It is something which is then going to live inside the MetaMask wallet. And we need to make sure that everything that's written in a Snap that's living inside the MetaMask wallet does not have any malicious intent in it. So there's only one way for us to establish that today is through an audit. So the auditor has to understand that there are some malicious things that can be done with a Snap, which can affect the wallet or not. And therefore, that is like a gateway to make sure that only the best quality snaps with no malicious intent reaches an end user's wallet. We also have to consider the fact that MetaMask wallet is used by such a large user base, millions of users, and we do not want all that trust on the wallet to come down just because of one particular malicious snap. It also helps improve the image of all the other snaps out there. Because imagine one snap that goes there which causes havoc, then an end user would lose interest or trust on all the other snaps out there, which affects every other developer. So in order to make sure that only high quality snaps come into a MetaMask wallet, we do have this auditing process as of today. Now, keep in mind the whole allow listing process, as I said, is only for this initial phase of the Snaps platform. Once we have bootstrapped it and once we have enough feedback and community support, we are going to be opening up this process to the community itself so that it's no longer allow listed or gatekept by ConsenSys. So the community comes into play, they look at your Snap, they look at the code. Auditors also come voluntarily forward. They look at your code, they provide an audit. Other members assert these audit requests and reports. And so it kind of creates a whole community where the trust of each Snap grows and thus gives more accessibility to the user to install your Snap. So all these things have to be kept into play. And today, one of the simplest ways is to provide to have an audit and make sure that the Snap is not malicious or is best for the ecosystem.
Okay, just one other quick question. So does that mean, is there going to be some guidelines describing sort of all these anti-patterns or anything else which sort of, again, in the world of using smart contracts, we have a lot of open source tools and we already know, how we look for these malicious patterns, or is it such early days, as you say, that really the auditors that you have, that particularly are skilled in now to work out what these patterns could be, because there isn't enough out there volume-wise to know exactly what are these malicious patterns. But obviously, you'll gain that knowledge from this early adoption stage.
Yes, a little of everything what you said. So through this presentation, I did take you to a link which talks about the best practices. So the design principles, how to design your snap, how to make sure that you are responsible when you're managing the keys of a user. So that is an excellent resource for you as a developer. Then you also have the builder series, which I took you to another link, which talks about security best practices, go-to-market best practices. So that is a great resource for you to understand what are the minimal requirements. And of course, finally, the auditors. We do have that curated list because these auditors have the knowledge about what a snap should and should not do. And so that knowledge is also built into their auditing processes. So this is a brand new platform. We did have snaps available for a very long time, but it went live just a few months ago. And therefore, this is a building process where we are coming up with all these great guidelines. So we already have some in place. So as I pointed out, you can take a look at them and understand what's the process and how to do it. And then finally, it reaches an audit process where you can rest assured that you have done everything that was asked of you. And now your audit process should be a quick snap.
That's great. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Okay. Anybody else having questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, so let's look quickly at a demo on how to create a snap. I mean, we spoke so much about a snap, and it's probably daunting in your mind to say, oh, wow, there's so much involved in a snap. I have to create a DApp. I have to create a snap. I have to put these permissions. How do I go about it? So that's where we come into play, and we've made it easy for us to get started with our snap journey. So to get started, let me go to one of our document pages. So I go to introduction. So this is the documents that I was sharing about earlier. And there's a quick start. So in here, just like every other project, you have a way to bootstrap or quickly start your project. And so I'm going to create a new snap just by a single command. And let's go ahead and do that. So in here, I open up my favorite IDE, which is Visual Studio Code. And I just paste that code, which I copied from the quick start, which is a create package to use Metamask Snaps online tool to create a quick repository. So demo snap. So this is my snap I'm going to create. And what this tool does is it just brings down a repository. It's a mono repository, and the mono repository is going to have everything that you need to get started for your snap journey. So now the repository is down there. Let me get into it. Demo snap, what was it? Demp, sorry. There was a typo there. So it is called Demp snap. Let's go with that for now. Okay. And I'm going to be installing the dependencies that are required into it. So while that is happening, let me show you this repository. So it's a simple NPM package, but it uses Yarn workspaces to create the different packages within your repository. You can look at the packages under this. You have two packages as of now, something called site and something called snap. So the snap is the bare minimal snap that we are creating. It's like a hello world snap. And inside this folder here is the most important file, which I spoke about, the snap manifest. Let me increase the code size. Okay, so the snap manifest is a place which describes your snap project. Here you have a description. It talks about the repository. You have a checksum of your project. So this checksum is very important because this is how we make sure that no hacker has hacked into your source code and changed the code under your feet, ensuring that malicious snaps don't get deployed into wallets. So when you write your code and you compile it using the snap CLI, this code, this SHA-SUM is generated, And this is a SHA-SUM that MetaMask keeps track of. So finally, when an end user tries to install a snap from NPM, we look at the SHA-SUM of that code versus the one we are keeping track of and make sure that what the user is installing is the exact same code that you as a developer has published out there. If you make changes in your code and you compile it, the SHA-SUM changes again. So in that way, we are dead sure that no hacker has come in between and changed your code. And here we look at the initial permissions. So this snap, which is a demo snap, allows us to show a dialog and allows us to dapps to communicate or other snaps to communicate to this snap using RPC method. So these are two examples of permissions that I'm including in this particular snap. And the code for the snap is also a very simple piece of code. We have an RPC request handler. So basically how this works is from your DApp, when you make a call, the call goes directly to MetaMask extension, not to the snap. It goes to MetaMask extension. And then MetaMask extension takes the parameters from that call and makes a call to the on RPC request handler, which is existing inside your snap. So picture this. The DApp's call goes to MetaMask. MetaMask takes the parameters and then makes a call internally to Snap. And the Snap has these switch statements, which looks at the RPC endpoints. So in this case, the RPC endpoint is called hello, and it hits this code and it executes whatever is written in here. So this is the code you will be writing. You will have all your RPCs in different case statements, and you will have the functionality of each of your RPC endpoint inside these case statements. So it's a very simple snap to get started. Like I said, a hello world snap. And then you have the site. So this is an React application, and the React application is also a very simple one, just got a couple of components, which allows us to show the connect button, any information about our snap, and how to go about installing it. So this monorepo is created with just a command like I showed you, and you can bootstrap your application with this. And now let's see how this works. So all I have to do is do a yarn start. And with yarn start, it calls the start of all the packages. It uses CLI, Snap CLI, to build your snap, make it available as a single JavaScript file. It also starts off your React application. So with that done, let me jump into my browser.
Mario, okay. If you don't mind, we do have a question.
Oh yes, go ahead, please.
Yes.
Hi Mario. So is what you showed us in the on RPC request the way a DApp or a Snap can call the Snap API?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. So if a DApp or a Snap wants to call another Snap's API, is what you showed us the way to do it, the on RPC request?
Yes, it will be an RPC request. So all in communication with the Snap is through RPC requests to the wallet, and then the wallet redirects a call to the internal Snap.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So going back here, okay. So it is 8,000, not 3,000. So now I've run the start, and therefore I have my DApp ready. So this is the sample DApp that we have created, and this is a place where you as a developer would make it look great, talk about your snap, all the features and functionality, and of course have the connect button. So as an end user, okay, I like your snap so far, I'm going to connect it. So it opens up MetaMask. Can you all see the MetaMask extension? I'll assume that to be yes. So yes, so the user is now looking to connect first to your website, your DApp, and then it's asking to connect. On connection, here is the dialog, which is going to say, this is Snap, and it is currently running at localhost, but in your case, it would be your project. It will also say these are the permissions that I require. And if you remember, I showed you the JSON file with 2 permissions. One was to show dialogues and one was to have RPC communication. So I didn't note the name of the person who asked this question, but yes, the communication happens via RPC. And if I go back to the JSON file, so here's the communication. So under this permission, there are these 2 sub-properties, dapps and snaps. And based on what you set here, it will allow other dapps to talk to your snap, or it will allow other snaps to talk to your snap. So for this demo example, I'm saying all dapps can talk to my snap, and all other snaps cannot talk to my snap. So because of this true, I'm able to now make my DApp talk to my snap. So going back to the website. So here, it's still on this permissions page. So these are the 2 permissions we coded in. The user looks at this and says, yes, it's great. I want to install it, move forward. And the installation is complete. Now, as a DApp developer, you would detect these events, and then you would enable things on your website, on your DApp. As you see here, the Snap installation is complete, and then the say hello message is now enabled because this is the work happening within the DApp to understand that the Snap has been installed, and now you can access the functionality of a Snap. So how do you know that your Snap has been installed? So like I said, you go into settings and you go into the Snaps menu, and then you would see that particular Snap installed. Click on that. It shows you more information about the Snap, all the permissions that it's requested, and which site is connected to it. And you can also remove your Snap. So let's try executing the Snap and see how it works. So you have only one method, which again, I showed you in the code, a hello world method. So I'm going to click on this button, which is going to send the RPC method to the wallet. And then the wallet sends it to the handler inside the Snap. The handler gets into the switch case block, and it executes your hello world. And there it is. So this is a simple dialogue that you have created within that switch case. And that is the dialogue that is also displayed here. So this is a simple dialogue, and if we go back to our code, we do see that is available here. So hello, and this is for display purposes, but you can edit the Snap to do something more interesting, and so on, and that's exactly what is displayed here. So you can display prompts, alerts, confirmations, and the user approves on things that you need to do, and then it comes back to your DApp, and then your DApp does the work inside. So that was a quick demo on how you create a Snap, how you make changes in it, and how you deploy it. An important point I want to show here is I'm working with MetaMask, which is a purple fox, which is MetaMask Flask. So as a developer, when you write your code, you want to use MetaMask Flask extension and not the MetaMask table. And you can get to the Flask extension from the MetaMask website. This is because your Snap is still in development. It's not allow listed, so it cannot be installed on the stable version. Therefore, you need to install the Flask version. Flask version is not gate kept. It's not allow listed, so any Snap can be installed here. So in essence, if an end user out there is very adventurous, they can just install Flask and install any Tom, Dick, and Harry's Snap within their wallet. But it is an experimental version, so you have to be careful. But as a developer, you have your Snap running locally, and the only way to show your Snap within MetaMask is to install MetaMask Flask extension, and then you see your local Snap developed and shown in here. So with that, I'll come to a stop on this demo and get back to our presentation because Shaima has some important information to follow up. But before I hand it over to Shaima, any quick questions on the demo so far?
Again, I have one quick question. Is there any level of granularity you can control when you made access for dapps and snaps? But obviously, when you're talking about the handler internally, and you've got all those RPC endpoints that you're able to call in the case are you able to control those to that level of granularity, or is it all or nothing?
In terms of granularity, I'm wondering if your question is, can I have my feature expressed as smaller pieces or smaller RPC calls? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So I
Yes.
may have more functionality, but I wanted, I may limit the level of functionality, maybe even down to a certain DApp can have more access and other DApps or snaps can have less access.
Yes, that would have to be code within the DApp. So from within your snap, you don't really know which DApp is going to be connecting to your snap. So that information is not known because that is done as a user installs snaps across different DApps. So from within the snap, you can't really control who can access me or who cannot. It's just an all or nothing in terms of the RPC permissions which I showed, where all DApps can communicate, yes or no. All snaps can communicate, yes or no. So that's unfortunately, that's the granularity.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so since we have just one more minute, I'll hand it over to you, Shaima, please.
All right. So first, thank you very much, Mario. As usual, it's clear and very straightforward. Then we are running out of time, but I want to say that what we achieved today is understand together how we are supposed to proceed in terms of developing our snap. What I want you to know is this will not be the only session. We are also organizing training sessions, and we also had previous training sessions. In this presentation that I'm going to share with you, there is a link, and you can access the recordings of the previous training sessions. And what you can see in the upcoming slide is that we are planning to have other public events where we will talk about best practices regarding either the design or the development or the testing around snaps. And as soon as those public events are scheduled, I will share with you the information, and you are very welcome to join those sessions as well. If I jump to the last slide, is that we also provide technical enablement, meaning that Mario shared with you this part where you can connect to us. You can reach out to the Metamask Snaps team and ask your questions. So on the discussion board, on Telegram, on the dedicated Slack channels, we do our best to reply, to provide you responses, and do not hesitate. I mean, if you have any questions, just ping us there, and we will come back to you with an acceptable reply. So we are out of time. I want to thank you very much. I will share this deck with all of the people who attended this presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot. We will be very happy to answer that. And to follow up with you once, I mean, if you maybe started the building of your snap or you are in whatever stage, we will be happy to have a dedicated session with you and to follow up with you.
Are we going to be auto-invited in the next sessions, or do we need to do something?
I auto-invited, I mean, I will invite the people who attended this, especially for the training. For the very same one, there is no point, but I will share the documentation with you and share the trainings that will be scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you all for attending, and have a wonderful day.